whereas they did a good job with this group, bro, they could have did a unbelievable job if they would have really played off of Black Lives Matter that was going on at the moment.
What's going on, everybody? This is Riding with Russo. That's Bouncy Vince, and I'm Bouncy Dr. Chris going on, right?
I had to correct Stevie Richards and Ben. I had to teach them the Dr. Chris bounce because they
right.
were bouncing, bro. Now we got the whole thing down, man.
Nice. The bounce has got over, man. That's awesome, man. Speaking of bounce, man, these two people have bounced from the Hurt Business. They had a really, really good thing going for a second. They had at one point in time, one had the U.S. Championship, the other had tag team championships. It was a really, really cool feel to them, and all of a sudden, just like nothing, just out of the blue, within a few weeks before WrestleMania, for the sake of AJ Styles and Omos winning the championships, which definitely isn't as important or doesn't feel as important as these two people having it. They just, you know what, it's going to totally ditch the concept. And that is the Hurt Business. I mean, we saw with Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, and of course, the current world champion, Bobby Lashley. Really interesting concept. MVP being the manager. It really revived all of their characters. MVP is just an amazing hand, just an amazing addition to the WWE since he came back. And I mean, all of their characters were just floundering. I mean, you had Shelton Benjamin, who was just kind of jobbing out a lot and just kind of bouncing between Raw and SmackDown. He had his thing with the Academy, not Otis, but Shorty G, Chad Gable. Yeah, so he had this thing with Chad Gable. That has some potential there. And then he just really went on a singles thing and just wasn't showcased. As much of a veteran he was just improperly showcased. Cedric Alexander, again, he was having some bouncing up and down with push, no push, U.S. Championship maybe, and then going back and just, and then Bobby Lashley, just over a year ago, he was in some type of wedding angle with Lana. That was just absolutely terrible. MVP comes in, really revives all their characters, cohesive unit together. They became a force to be reckoned with. Now we see Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin just getting to a point where they are just continuing to be irrelevant more and more and more. They're like the two people who came with the dominant guy on the bar. Like, I'm with that guy. I'm with Lashley. Lashley doesn't want anything to do with them anymore because he realized that they're just nobodies. And then they get kicked out the bar, and then they fight over each other of like, well, it was your fault. It was your fault. That's what I feel as the weeks progress when it comes to Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. Where did they go wrong, Vince?
Well, bro, where they really went wrong is, I think, you talked about the WWE doing a good job with this group. But whereas they did a good job with this group, bro, they could have did a unbelievable job if they would have really played off of Black Lives Matter that was going on at the moment. They didn't even acknowledge that, bro. They didn't even talk about it. And to me, that should have been the theme that brought them together. Then, bro, now when we're going through the Black Lives Matter and we're mirroring what we see on TV and what's happening in society, well, now, bro, maybe one guy can make a statement where he's really not on the same page as the other four. And there really isn't a united front. And that's how you break them up. It all would have worked out beautifully. But of course, in the midst of Black Lives Matter, they didn't even mention it. They didn't even address it. Those two are kicked out of the group out of nowhere. Then they're going at each other's throats out of nowhere. Bro, if any time is put into any of this, it could really be good, riveting TV,
Yeah.
but they're just not spending the time that they need to spend on it, bro.
Yeah. And sadly, because you really have some really good talent in the ring. Now, Shelton Benjamin, I mean, just bell to bell, one of the best athletes in the past 20 years easily in the WWE when he was with, Team Angle, with Charlie Haas, and just he's been just a really good person to watch in the ring. It's good that even with MVP, he had a mic. He had a stick man. You know what I mean? Because that was probably, if you were to grade Shelton Benjamin A in the ring, you know what I mean? But at the same time, when it comes to the mic, I would, it would be a little lower. You can, basically compensate that with MVP. Same thing with Shelton, with Cedric Alexander. I would give him the same critique. You had that with MVP. What I see, Vince, is just a failure to capitalize, as you were saying. You have pop culture, and you shared with me stories before of, Vince McMahon being oblivious to pop culture and it reflecting on television. But now there's so many writers, there's so many people who are out kind of antennas and having things outside the business to try to bring in pop culture. From your experience, do you think that there people are just afraid to make suggestions? Because at this point, you have so many people that are in the business. Even if Vince McMahon doesn't know about it, you have so many people aware, especially with the social media presence.
I think there's two big reasons. I'll be honest with you, bro. I think there are two huge reasons. I think number one, it's the wrestling bubble. Bro, they're really not hooked into what's going on in the world and what's going on in society. They're really not. When I tell you people in the bubble, bro, are wrestling 24/7, I'm being dead serious about that. They're not sitting home and watching the evening news. They're not watching, Tucker Carlson. They're not watching any of that, bro.
Gotcha.
That's number one. Number two, bro, because of all these deals they're getting in place, they're not going to ruffle any feathers, bro. They're going to play everything as safe and as politically correct as possible. They're not going to lose any money. Yeah. And the unfortunate thing about that, bro, is you're never going to get good television. I mean, if these are the rules we're playing by, you're not going to get riveting television, controversial television, interesting television. You're not going to get that, bro. You're going to get a very safe, vanilla product. And we've been seeing that for years, bro.
Yeah, I agree. I still think we shouldn't put WWE. I'm not saying that you are, but I still think we shouldn't put WWE off the handle when it comes to edginess, because you can have an edge even in the PG world, so to speak. You can have color. You know what I mean? Like, we're old school when it comes to 80s wrestling. And I know some, I'm good friends with Bobby Fulton, Black Bart, you know what I mean? And they would be the people who say, you better not say a cuss word in the promo, like you're gonna get fined for it. You know what I mean? Like back in the 80s. And so we've seen the fact that you don't have to go so far out, you know what I mean, to still really focus and hone in on a character.
But bro, think about this. If we're going to have an honest conversation here, Chris, why should they take any chances at all?
And that's the issue.
There's no reason for
there's no reason.
Right. Yeah, bro, bro, a lot of people say to me, oh, well, Vince, it's because of the rating, this and that. Bro, if you actually do the research and read what a PG rating is, they're nowhere close to it. Yeah. They're not close to what they can do within those boundaries. That's so it's not the rating, but it's why take any chances.
That's it. I mean, that's it right there, Vince. I mean, because again, back in the 80s, with the exception of color, you know what I mean? It was still a very character-driven, building around the character, building around the storylines. And even, if we talk like Hogan and Andre, it wasn't about, being risque and things like that. It was a story that we hung on to, with even Ultimate Warrior and Papa Shango, The Undertaker and Jake Roberts. Like, there's so many stories that we hung on to that didn't cause some risque type of thing. I can't put them off the handle, and I can't give them excuse. I can't be that guy because I'm such an old school wrestling fan.
Mhm.
I can't be that guy to say, well, it's just the rating, and the rating is, the reason why. No, I think WWE, if they really care about their fans, which I would question with the exception of the hardcore fans, like you said, who's in that bubble. I mean, you said this best, and I got this from you years ago. You said this. You said, when it comes to writing, you can't play to the house.
Mhm.
You have to play to the casuals.
Mhm.
And in order to play to the casuals, you have to say, what is it about professional wrestling, about this professional wrestling world, that me from in 2021, from outside of the bubble,
Mhm.
is interested to
Mhm.
not only one, go into peek into the bubble to see what's in there, to see if I'm interested, and then two, get hooked to stay in the bubble at least a little bit, and then
Mhm.
three, get further hooked to stay for longer. And
Mhm.
it's like, that's how you pull people to episodic television, because people tell people and it starts spreading. What do you think about this walk? Have you ever seen The Walking Dead? Have you ever seen Breaking Bad? Have you seen? I don't see any of that. And as I think what we've understood and what we're talking about right now is that the emphasis isn't on bringing people from the outside in. It's giving product to maintain what's inside
Mhm.
for the sake of getting the paycheck. And when it comes to Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander, to me, that is just proof of, you have two really good talent, but instead of making riveting television and pulling from pulp culture, which you said the Black Lives Matter movement, that'll hook someone from outside the bubble. Instead of doing that, we'll just break them up and have them fight over. We still don't know why they're fighting.
Mhm.